The little girl was standing in the middle of the empty road, barefoot, trembling under the cold orange glow of a flickering streetlight. It was past midnight. The wind carried dry leaves across the cracked pavement, and the distant hum of traffic echoed like a restless whisper through the quiet neighborhood. The child looked no older than 6. Her small hands were wrapped tightly around a worn-out stuffed rabbit, its fur faded and torn. Her dark hair clung to her damp cheeks, and her wide eyes scanned the darkness as if the world had suddenly become too big and too lonely for someone so small. At that exact moment, a tired single father named Daniel was driving home after finishing a long shift at a warehouse on the edge of the city. His old pickup truck rattled with every bump in the road, and exhaustion weighed heavily on his shoulders. Life had not been gentle with him. 3 years earlier, he had buried his wife after a sudden illness, and since then every day had been a quiet battle between grief and survival. As his headlights swept across the road, the small figure suddenly appeared in the beam of light. Daniel slammed the brakes. For a second his heart stopped. A child. Alone. At midnight. He quickly stepped out of the truck, the cool air biting his face. The girl didn't run. She didn't scream. She simply stood there, staring at him with eyes that carried a strange mix of fear and silent hope. Daniel knelt slowly, careful not to scare her. The streetlight flickered again, casting soft shadows across the pavement. Up close he could see how pale she looked, how thin her little arms were, how tightly she clutched that broken toy as if it were the only safe thing left in the world. There was no sign of parents. No cars nearby. No houses with lights on. Just silence. Something deep inside Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the nights after his wife died when his own daughter used to cry herself to sleep, afraid the world had forgotten her. That same fragile fear lived in the little girl's eyes now. Without asking questions she couldn't answer, Daniel gently wrapped his jacket around her shoulders and guided her toward the truck. The heater hummed softly as they drove toward the nearest police station, but the girl remained quiet, staring out the window as raindrops began to fall against the glass. But when they arrived, something unexpected happened. The station was flooded with activity. Police cars. Security vehicles. Men in expensive suits speaking urgently on their phones. And cameras. Lots of cameras. Daniel had no idea what was going on until one of the officers suddenly froze when he saw the girl stepping out of the truck. The officer's eyes widened in disbelief. Within seconds the entire room shifted. Radios crackled. Officers began speaking rapidly. Someone rushed to make a call. The girl Daniel had just found wasn't just any lost child. She was the missing daughter of one of the richest women in the country. News channels had been broadcasting the story for hours. A billionaire tech entrepreneur's 6-year-old daughter had vanished from a private estate earlier that evening, triggering a massive search operation across the city. Daniel felt the weight of the moment crash into him all at once. The girl he had found under a lonely streetlight was the center of a national emergency. But the biggest shock hadn't arrived yet. Because less than 20 minutes later, a convoy of black luxury SUVs pulled up outside the station. Out stepped a tall woman in an elegant dark coat, her posture sharp and powerful, yet her face carried the unmistakable exhaustion of a mother who had been crying for hours. Cameras flashed wildly as security pushed reporters aside. This was Eleanor Hayes, the billionaire. She rushed inside the moment she saw her daughter. For the first time since Daniel had found her, the little girl finally moved with urgency. She ran across the room and threw her arms around her mother. The reunion was raw and overwhelming. The powerful businesswoman who controlled billion-dollar companies collapsed to her knees as she held her child, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, the entire room stood silent. But then Eleanor slowly looked up. Her eyes found Daniel. And something strange happened. Her expression shifted from gratitude, to confusion, to something deeper. Almost like recognition. She stood slowly and walked toward him. Daniel felt suddenly uncomfortable under the attention of cameras and police officers. He had only tried to help. But when Eleanor reached him, her voice carried a trembling weight that no one expected. Because what she said next made the entire room freeze. She explained that her daughter hadn't simply wandered away. She had escaped. Earlier that evening, the girl had overheard a devastating secret during a conversation between Eleanor and her lawyers, a secret about her real father. For 6 years, Eleanor had protected the truth. But now it was unraveling. And according to the documents and DNA records that Eleanor had finally uncovered, the man standing in front of her, the tired warehouse worker who had found the girl under a streetlight, was the child's biological father. Daniel felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. The world around him blurred. Police voices, camera flashes, reporters shouting questions, it all faded into a distant echo. 6 years ago, before life had broken him apart, Daniel had shared a brief relationship with a woman who disappeared from his life without explanation. He had never known she was pregnant. Never known a daughter existed. And now the small girl who had looked at him with quiet trust under a lonely streetlight was his. The realization didn't arrive like a loud explosion. It arrived like a quiet earthquake inside his chest. The little girl slowly walked toward him again, her stuffed rabbit still clutched tightly in her hands. This time, when she looked up at him, something had changed. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the strange invisible thread that sometimes connects people long before they know why. But the way she reached for his hand felt like something ancient and undeniable. For the first time since losing his wife, Daniel felt something inside his heart begin to wake up again.